I appreciate your president having made me an honorary visiting professor, and I will assure you that my first lecture will be very brief.
This one is considered, and in my opinion, is Kennedy's greatest speech of all time.
The exploration of space will go ahead, whether we join in it or not.
Everything that JFK said in that stadium is still relevant today. This put Houston on the map.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Today, just two things remain from that sweltering September morning on the football field there at Rice University. The first is memories. The second is a myth.
So this has gone on now for 30 years, 60 in total, that this myth that was created.
No one's questioned this.
No one's questioned it.
The myth surrounds the legendary lectern from which Kennedy is said to have delivered that speech, inspiring the moon missions. Rice University claims to have found that lectern a full 30 years later. Just happened to be sitting backstage at its theater in Hammond Hall during the 1990s.
They just said, aha, that's our lectern right there in 1962, and have just perpetuated this myth as urban legend for all this time.
Rice University decided to donate it to Space Center Houston, where it is on permanent museum display.
That each time the president visits,
it does look like JFK's, but historian Ferris Rookstool says, take a closer look.
The fact that there is this darkened line, you can see it here as well, and here as well, here in the color photograph, and that's because the lectern is not seated completely flush. It's slightly askew in the setup procedure because they actually take it apart when they're transporting it on a big C-130 aircraft.
Rice's lectern does not have such a cut, nor does it show any signs that its walnut veneer was ever repaired.
This would be the fingerprint. Think of this as the fingerprint.
That shadow were two different pieces.
The shadow, the saw cut. There is no repair marks on here. There is no saw cut on here. And again, having inspected Rice's lectern, it's not bulletproof.
Rookstool has authenticated Kennedy artifacts for years and says he doesn't understand why no one ever took a closer look at the lectern.
The greater our knowledge increases, the greater our ignorance unfolds.
The National Archives has dozens of images showing Kennedy behind the same style IBM lectern that he used at Rice, and the saw cut clearly visible in each of the photos.
The fact that it's not bulletproof and it does not have a saw cut, I mean, you don't have to be a graduate of Rice University to figure this out.
But here's what might be most remarkable about this revelation. Rice University admits that it never had its lectern forensically authenticated. It had no proof, no provenance that its lectern was really a relic before donating it for museum display.
Greg Marshall discovered the lectern in 1992. He's the director of university relations at Rice and explained in an email to us that, quote, it was the only lectern of its kind on campus. And older faculty and staff who worked at Rice in 1962 widely and routinely identified this as the lectern from which JFK delivered his speech. Marshall went on to say, I've never had any reason to doubt them. But as far back as 1940, the White House was bringing its own lecterns for official speeches, setting them up along with flags and microphones and more. Even today at the White House Communications Agency in Washington, D.C., large banners chronicle the organization's history, including an image of Kennedy there at Rice, September 12, 1962. So where would the university have gotten something so similar? Turns out IBM also sold these lecterns commercially at the time. After Rookstool raised questions about the lectern, Mr. Marshall had the one on display inspected again and then emailed us saying, quote, if Mr. Rookstool's assertions are accurate, then it appears unlikely that the lectern we donated to Space Center Houston is the one that President Kennedy used at Rice, as we were originally told. That's obviously disappointing, Marshall said, but it is important to know the truth.
On the new frontier of science and space.
No one knows what happened to the actual lectern that Kennedy used that day. Perhaps it was unknowingly sold as government surplus years later. But there is no evidence that the one on display for decades in Houston is anything more than just an insignificant piece of old furniture. In Dallas, I'm Jason Whiteley.